Who were the first civilizations to set foot on our planet? History, as we know it, is mostly shaped by the victors. Their power and influence over centuries have defined the stories we've come to believe. However, there's a curious twist in this narrative. At one point, humans transitioned from primitive hunters to highly intelligent civilizations. These civilizations created monumental structures, developed complex calendars, and left behind ancient writings, each piece contributing to our current understanding of the world. But what if the story is more complicated than we think? What if ancient civilizations, the stories of gods and angels, giants, and cataclysmic events, were more literal than we initially assumed? What if we have received knowledge far beyond our comprehension? As we delve into the details, an entirely different history of humankind begins to emerge, one that completely overturns everything we've been taught. It's a version of history that's been consciously censored, forgotten, or perhaps even ignored for millennia. Welcome to this new episode of Secret Origins. In the spring of 1946, in an area now known as the West Bank, a group of teenagers tended to their flocks of sheep and goats near the ancient settlement of Qumran. In order to pass the time, they tossed stones across the rugged desert terrain. One day, a stone was thrown into the mouth of a cave, only to result in a loud crashing sound. Curious yet slightly afraid, they ventured inside, only to discover large clay pots. At the time, they had no idea they were on the brink of one of the most significant archaeological discoveries of all time. Inside the pots were ancient scrolls, manuscripts that would later come to be known as the Dead Sea Scrolls. Over time, archaeologists, historians, and treasure hunters found additional fragments from 10 other caves in the region, bringing the total to nearly 900 manuscripts. These scrolls, found in the mid-20th century, were long believed to be relics of forgotten times. But among them was a curious discovery: a set of ancient religious texts, once considered non-canonical, which had been lost to history. This mysterious text would later be known as the Book of Enoch. The Book of Enoch consists of 5 distinct parts: the Book of Watchers, the Book of Parables, the Astronomical Book, the Book of Dream Visions, and the Epistles of Enoch. Together, these texts contain around 100 chapters. The narrative centers on Enoch, the 7th patriarch mentioned in the book of Genesis. Enoch, the father of Methuselah and the grandfather of Noah, is a pivotal figure in these texts. However, the version of Noah's story found in the Book of Enoch differs dramatically from the biblical account most of us know. The Book of Enoch presents an entirely different perspective on the events leading up to the Great Flood, providing a more complex and profound narrative. This is where the story of the Watchers comes into play. In biblical terms, the Watchers are often referred to as fallen angels who were sent to earth to observe humanity. But as the Book of Enoch reveals, their role evolved. They became more than passive observers. They began to interact with humans in more direct ways. According to the text, these Watchers descended to earth at Mount Hermon, a place of great significance for both the Canaanites and later the invading Jews. Mount Hermon was considered sacred, and temples dedicated to gods like Baal, Zeus, Helios, and Pan were built there. The Watchers, who were initially sent to observe humanity, started to break the sacred covenant by engaging in intimate relations with human women. This led to the creation of a hybrid race, the Nephilim. The Nephilim are described in the Book of Enoch as gigantic, savage beings who wreaked havoc on earth. They were fierce, supernatural giants, born from the union between the Watchers and humans. These monstrous creatures threatened to destabilize the world, and as a result, the Watchers were imprisoned deep within the earth's bowels, buried away for eternity. Enoch, as the mediator between the gods and the imprisoned Watchers, became a central figure in the story. His actions provoked the wrath of Yahweh, and as the biblical account tells us, the consequence of the Watchers' transgressions was a great flood, a cataclysmic event designed to cleanse the earth. The Nephilim were destroyed, and the Watchers were left to languish in their prison. But before the flood, something extraordinary occurred. Enoch was taken up to heaven in a chariot of fire, an event that parallels many ancient accounts of divine ascensions. Enoch's journey to heaven was a significant moment in both the Book of Enoch and other ancient texts, and it set the stage for the biblical story of the flood. The Nephilim, born from the forbidden union of angels and humans, became a major focus of both religious and mythological texts throughout the world. Interestingly, the story of the Nephilim and their role in ancient history is not isolated to the Book of Enoch. The biblical narrative also touches on these beings. In the Bible, there are references to a land inhabited by giants, a place so populated by these enormous beings that they made the Israelites look like grasshoppers. In comparison, while modern interpretations of many biblical stories often suggest allegory or philosophical myth, there's archaeological evidence for a great flood event documented in various religions and cultures around the world. The existence of giants, the Nephilim, may be seen as a metaphor or a fantastical tale by some, but what if there was more to it? What if these beings really existed? Stories of giants are found throughout human history. The famous explorer Marco Polo even wrote about a race of giants he encountered in Zanzibar. These giants were described as so strong that they could carry the weight of ordinary men. In Morocco, the people of Tangier once claimed that the founder of their city was a giant named Antaeus. In Irish mythology, the Giant's Causeway, a remarkable structure consisting of 40,000 interlocking rock columns, was said to have been built by an Irish giant, Finn McCool, who crossed the sea to fight another giant in Scotland. Such stories are not limited to the Bible. Ancient Greek mythology, Norse legends, and many other cultures share similar tales of giant beings that once roamed the earth. But if giants were indeed real, as the records of multiple ancient civilizations suggest, then the Book of Enoch begins to look less like a work of fantasy and more like a historical record. The notion of semi-divine beings, born from the union of gods and mortals, was common in many ancient myths. These stories are seen as the precursors to legends of hybrid heroes, beings that were part divine, part human. The Book of Enoch is perhaps one of the most important texts that describes such creatures. In addition to the giants, the Book of Enoch contains references to experiments that led to the creation of monstrous hybrid beings. These beings, products of interbreeding between gods and humans, may have played a significant role in shaping the ancient world. Some believe that the legends of Atlantis, with its supposed experiments in creating hybrid races, might hold a kernel of truth. These tales are deeply embedded in the mythologies of ancient peoples, especially the Babylonians, and they continue to be explored today. In the next part, we will continue to explore the implications of these ancient texts and their impact on our understanding of human history. Stay tuned for more revelations from the hidden chapters of our past. The Book of Enoch, alongside other ancient texts, continues to raise questions that challenge our conventional understanding of history. Many of these questions revolve around the idea that our ancestors were not the primitive beings we often think of. Instead, they may have had access to knowledge that was far beyond what we would expect from early civilizations. The very existence of these ancient scriptures implies that the history we've been taught might only be a small part of the larger, hidden story. As we dig deeper, we find that the Book of Enoch and other ancient texts aren't just about giants, fallen angels, and cataclysmic floods. They also provide insights into humanity's relationship with the cosmos. These ancient manuscripts reveal a fascination with celestial bodies and an understanding of the universe that might surprise us. Enoch, for instance, is credited with giving humanity knowledge of astronomy and creating a solar calendar. In this regard, Enoch becomes not only a religious figure, but also an early scientist who studied the heavens. The Watchers, who play a central role in the Book of Enoch, are described as beings who descended from the heavens to watch over humanity. This concept is fascinating because it suggests that ancient people were aware of forces beyond the earth, forces they believed were directly interacting with them. The Watchers were not just passive observers, they were actively engaged in human affairs, bringing knowledge, technology, and, some argue, even teaching humans advanced skills. According to the Book of Enoch, this relationship between humans and divine beings was not only physical, but also spiritual. These themes of cosmic intervention and celestial knowledge are echoed in many other ancient cultures. The Sumerians, for example, speak of the Anunnaki a group of deities who are said to have descended from the heavens and interacted with humanity. Much like the Watchers, the Anunnaki were believed to have given humans knowledge, especially in the fields of agriculture, metallurgy, and writing. It's clear that these ancient stories share common elements, particularly when it comes to the idea that divine beings from the skies bestowed knowledge upon early human civilizations. This brings us to an important question. Why were these stories suppressed, ignored, or censored? Why was the Book of Enoch excluded from the Bible? And why did early Christian authorities choose to leave out so many texts that describe divine interventions in human affairs? Could there have been a reason beyond simple theological disagreement? Some believe the exclusion of texts like the Book of Enoch was not merely about doctrine, but about control over knowledge. After all, the Book of Enoch offers a radically different perspective on the creation of humanity and the involvement of divine beings. It doesn't present the gods as distant or unapproachable. Instead, it portrays them as actively engaging with humanity, sometimes in ways that challenge conventional religious narratives. The idea of gods walking among humans, teaching them forbidden knowledge, could be seen as threatening to the established order. This theme of control over knowledge is a recurring one in human history. The ancient world was filled with stories of secret teachings, hidden wisdom, and lost knowledge. Even today, there are countless accounts of powerful groups seeking to control information, suppress certain truths, or keep knowledge out of the hands of the masses. The Book of Enoch may have been another casualty of this struggle for control. By removing it from the official biblical canon, those in power ensured that a certain narrative would remain dominant, one that framed humanity's relationship with the divine in a more conventional, hierarchical way. But as we've seen, the Book of Enoch, die Book of En has in addition to the Book of Enoch, Book of Enoch, Sug. Why were these texts excluded? What did they reveal that made them so dangerous? To the established church, the Gospel of Mary, for example, presents a very different picture of Jesus and his relationship with Mary Magdalene. It suggests that Mary had a unique role in Jesus' teachings, a role that was perhaps too radical for the early Christian church to accept. Similarly, the Gos Portra, the Exclusi. Interestingly, the Book of En and other Suprasananac, like Watchers, R.D., the Anunnaki and the Watchers are often depicted in Nunnak where extraterrestrian came to Earth. While these ideas are controversial, they fit within the larger pattern of ancient myths about divine beings interacting with humanity. Whether these beings were gods, angels, or extraterrestrials, their influence on human history is undeniable. The ancient texts, including the Book of Enoch, Sug. The question, as we continue to explore these mysteries, we must keep in mind that our understanding of history is far from complete. The Book of Enoch, Anunnaki, Watchers, and in the next part, we will delve deeper into the connection between the En and Book of Enoch and other ancient texts. Stay with us as we continue to unravel the mysteries of our past. As we continue our exploration of the Book of Enoch and other ancient texts, the connections between these stories and ancient civilizations become more apparent. One of the most striking examples is the alignment between the Anunnaki of Sumerian mythology and the Watchers described in the Book of Enoch. While the names and some of the details differ, the overarching narrative remains largely the same. Both groups of beings are described as descending from the heavens, interacting with humanity, and ultimately causing significant shifts in the course of human history. The Anunnaki, according to Sumerian texts, were a race of deities who came from the heavens and played a vital role in shaping early human civilization. These beings were perceived as gods by the Sumerians, and they were credited with bringing knowledge of agriculture, writing, astronomy, and many other aspects of civilization. But much like the Watchers, the Anunnaki weren't content with just observing humanity. They became directly involved in human affairs, often to the detriment of mankind. The Sumerian accounts suggest that the Anunnaki began to interbreed with human women, creating a hybrid race known as the Nephilim. This parallels the story in the Book of Enoch, where the Watchers descend to earth and take human wives, resulting in the birth of the Nephilim. The Nephilim were said to be giants, beings of great power and strength who dominated humanity. In both the Sumerian and Enochian accounts, The creation of these hybrids was seen as a violation of divine law, and it led to catastrophic consequences. In the case of the Anunnaki, their mingling with humans was said to have angered the gods, leading to the creation of a great flood, an event that echoes the biblical story of Noah's Ark. According to Sumerian tradition, the gods sent a flood to destroy the Anunnaki and their hybrid offspring. This flood, much like the one in the Book of Enoch, was seen as a way to cleanse the earth of the corruption brought on by these divine human unions. The similarities between the stories of the Anunnaki and the Watchers are not just coincidental. They point to a shared cultural memory of divine beings interacting with humanity in ways that fundamentally altered the course of history. These stories suggest that the origins of human civilization are far more complex and mysterious than we've been led to believe. The Anunnaki and the Watchers may not just be mythological figures. They could be representations of ancient events that were so profound that they have been woven into the fabric of multiple cultures and traditions. But what is the true nature of these beings? Were they gods, angels, or something else entirely? As we've seen, modern theorists like Zecharia Sitchin have proposed that the Anunnaki were extraterrestrial beings, visitors from another planet who came to Earth to mine resources. According to Sitchin, these beings genetically engineered humanity to serve as a labor force in their quest for gold and other valuable materials. This theory, though controversial, offers a potential explanation for why the Anunnaki were so involved with humanity and why their influence was so far-reaching. If the Anunnaki were extraterrestrials, then the ancient texts might be describing not gods or angels, but visitors from another world. This would explain why these beings were so advanced in their knowledge and technology, as well as their ability to manipulate and control human populations. It also provides a possible answer to the question of why they left. If they were extraterrestrial beings, they may have had reasons to leave Earth once their mission was complete. The idea that extraterrestrial beings might have played a role in the development of human civilization is not a new one. It has been proposed by many researchers and theorists over the years, and it aligns with certain aspects of ancient mythology. The Anunnaki and the Watchers were both described as having extraordinary abilities that seem far beyond the capabilities of any humans of that time. If they were indeed extraterrestrial beings, then their actions might have been part of a larger plan or mission, one that we are only beginning to understand. In addition to the Anunnaki and the Watchers, another crucial aspect of these ancient stories is the role of the Nephilim, the hybrid offspring, born from the union of divine beings and human women. The Nephilim are often described as giants, and their presence in ancient cultures is a recurring theme. The biblical account, as well as stories from other cultures, describe these giants as powerful, often destructive beings who were both revered and feared. In the Book of Enoch, the Nephilim are depicted as savage giants who terrorized humanity. These beings were said to be enormous in size and strength, and their presence on Earth was a source of great turmoil. The Nephilim are often seen as a symbol of the dangers of crossing boundaries. Whether divine or natural, their creation was a direct result of the Watchers' transgressions, and their existence was a violation of the natural order. The concept of giants, beings of enormous size and strength, appears in many other ancient cultures as well. In Greek mythology, for example, the Titans were a race of giants who battled the gods for control of the world. Similarly, in Norse mythology, there are stories of giant beings who once ruled over the earth before being defeated by the gods. In many of these stories, giants are portrayed as powerful but flawed beings who challenge the gods but are ultimately destroyed as a result of their defiance. Interestingly, the idea of giants is not limited to mythology. There are accounts of giant beings in ancient history as well. Marco Polo, for example, wrote about a race of giants in Zanzibar who were so strong that they could carry the weight of ordinary men. In Morocco, the people of Tangier once claimed that their city was founded by a giant named Antaeus. Even in modern times, there are stories of giant skeletons being discovered in remote areas around the world. These discoveries, while often dismissed as hoaxes, suggest that the concept of giants may have some basis in reality. The Nephilim, then, may not be purely mythological figures. They could represent a real, albeit forgotten, chapter in human history. If the stories of giants and hybrids are to be believed, then the ancient world was a far stranger place than we've been taught to believe. The Nephilim may have been real beings, created through a mix of divine and human blood. Whether they were giants, hybrids, or something else entirely, their existence challenges our understanding of human history. In the next part, we will continue to explore the implications of these ancient myths and what they might reveal about the true origins of humanity. Stay with us as we uncover more hidden truths and forgotten knowledge from our distant past. As we continue our journey into the ancient texts and their implications for the history of humanity, it's important to examine the deeper meanings behind the creation of hybrid beings like the Nephilim and the Anunnaki's influence on early human civilization. The Nephilim were not just giants in size, they symbolized a crossing of boundaries both divine and natural. Their very existence seems to challenge the idea of what it means to be human. This theme of hybridization, of the crossing of lines between the divine and the mortal, occurs not just in the Book of Enoch, but in many ancient myths, making it one of the most enduring themes of humanity's earliest stories. What is truly fascinating about these ancient tales is their common thread: the interaction between gods or divine beings and humans. In various cultures, gods don't stay in the heavens. They descend to earth, engaging with mortals in ways that suggest more than just metaphor. Whether we look at the Anunnaki, the Watchers, or the many gods of ancient Greece and Egypt, we find stories of divine beings walking among us, teaching us their arts and bestowing knowledge. This is where the lines between mythology, religion, and history blur, leading us to ask, what if these were not just allegorical stories, but a record of actual events? The story of the Nephilim is especially important because it highlights a deep and troubling question: what happens when divine beings mix with mortals? In the Book of Enoch, the Nephilim are depicted as giants who caused chaos and destruction on earth. They were not simply mythical creatures, they were described as real, living beings with supernatural powers who terrorized humanity. The Watchers who fathered the Nephilim were originally sent to Earth to observe humanity, but their decision to engage with human women broke the sacred laws, leading to the creation of these monstrous offspring. This mixing of the divine and the mortal is seen as a fundamental violation of the natural order. The flood that followed, according to the Book of Enoch, was not just a punishment for the Nephilim and the Watchers, it was a cleansing, a way to reset the balance of the world. The destruction of the Nephilim was seen as necessary to restore order, but it also served as a warning about the dangers of overstepping boundaries. The flood was meant to rid the earth of the corrupted beings born from this union of the divine and the human, and in this sense, it was a purification, not just of the world, but of the very nature of humanity itself. This idea of divine intervention and the crossing of boundaries appears in many ancient cultures, not just in the Book of Enoch. In Greek mythology, for example, gods frequently mingled with humans, leading to the creation of heroes who were part divine and part mortal. These heroes, such as Hercules, were often depicted as possessing extraordinary strength and abilities, but they were also flawed, caught between their divine origins and their human nature. The ancient Greeks saw these heroes as symbols of the struggle between the human and the divine, a struggle that is present in many of the world's oldest myths. Likewise, the Anunnaki of Sumerian myth are described as beings who came down from the heavens, bringing knowledge and wisdom to humanity. But like the Watchers, the Anunnaki were not content with simply teaching humanity, they became involved in human affairs. In more intimate ways, the Sumerian texts suggest that these gods began to interbreed with human women, creating a hybrid race of beings who were both divine and mortal. The Anunnaki's interference with humanity, much like the Watchers' actions in the Book of Enoch, led to chaos and destruction. It was this divine interference, according to the texts, that led to the creation of the Great Flood, a cataclysmic event that destroyed the Anunnaki's creations and wiped out much of humanity. This recurring theme of divine beings crossing boundaries, interfering with humanity, and ultimately leading to destruction is one of the most consistent motifs in ancient mythologies. Whether we look at the Watchers in the Book of Enoch, the Anunnaki in Sumerian texts, or the gods of Greek mythology, we see a pattern. The gods' involvement in human affairs doesn't end well for either the gods or humanity. In each of these stories, the gods overstep their bounds and meddle in the natural order, and the result is chaos, destruction, and a great flood. But why do these stories persist? Why do they appear in so many cultures and across such vast periods of history? Could it be that there is more to these myths than mere allegory? Could these stories, passed down through generations, be rooted in real events that were so significant they were encoded into the fabric of human history? The flood narrative, in particular, is one of the most widespread and enduring stories across different cultures. The Book of Enoch, the Bible, the Epic of Gilgamesh, and countless other ancient texts all recount stories of a great flood that wiped out much of humanity. The details vary. Sometimes the flood is sent as punishment, sometimes as a way to cleanse the earth of corruption. But the basic narrative remains the same. A great deluge, sent by divine beings or gods, wipes out humanity, leaving only a select few survivors to repopulate the earth. This flood narrative, while often interpreted as allegorical or symbolic, may be based on real historical events. There's evidence of catastrophic flooding events in ancient history, particularly at the end of the last ice age, around 10,000 BC. The Earth experienced massive changes, including the melting of glaciers and the rise of sea levels. These environmental shifts could have led to large-scale flooding that devastated ancient civilizations. It's possible that these real events became mythologized over time, evolving into the flood stories we see in ancient texts. But the flood is not the only element of these ancient stories that may have a basis in historical events. The Nephilim, the hybrid offspring of divine beings and humans, are another key part of the Book of Enoch and other ancient myths. These beings, described as giants, are often seen as symbolic representations of the dangers of divine-human interaction. But what if the Nephilim were real beings? What if they were the result of interbreeding between gods or extraterrestrials and humans? As some modern theorists suggest, the idea of giants, beings of enormous size and strength, appears in many ancient cultures, from the Nephilim in the Book of Enoch to the Titans of Greek mythology. Giants are a recurring theme. There are even reports of giant skeletons being discovered in remote locations around the world. While many of these reports are dismissed as hoaxes or exaggerations, the idea of giants continues to capture the imagination of people today. If giants were real, as these stories suggest, they would represent a significant and unexplained chapter in human history. In the next part, we will examine the possibility that the Nephilim and other hybrid beings were not just mythological figures, but real beings who played a crucial role in the early history of humanity. We'll explore the evidence for giants and hybrids, as well as the implications of their existence for our understanding of human origins. Stay tuned as we uncover more pieces of this ancient puzzle and continue our search for the truth about humanity's past. As we continue to uncover the mysteries of ancient texts and their implications for humanity's past, the possibility that the Nephilim and other hybrid beings were real figures begins to take on more significance. The stories of giants and hybrid races found in the Book of Enoch, Sumerian myths, Greek legends, and other ancient cultures suggest that there was more to these beings than mere mythology. In fact, the idea that these hybrid beings could have been real, whether as giants, hybrids, or something else entirely, raises profound questions about the origins of humanity and the ancient world. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence for the existence of giants comes from ancient accounts of giants appearing in various cultures. In many stories, giants are depicted as beings of enormous size and strength who were both revered and feared. These giants were said to possess extraordinary abilities, making them seem almost godlike. From the Nephilim in the Book of Enoch to the Titans in Greek mythology, these beings often play pivotal roles in the ancient myths, suggesting they were central figures in the ancient world. In the ancient world, giants were not merely the stuff of legend, they were often seen as real figures who once roamed the earth. Marco Polo, the famous explorer, wrote about a race of giants in Zanzibar who were so strong they could carry as much as 4 ordinary men. In Morocco, the people of Tangier claimed that the founder of their city was a giant named Antaeus. These accounts, though separated by time and culture, suggest that giants were a widespread motif in the ancient world. But could these giants have been more than just mythical figures? Could they have been real beings, born from the unions of divine beings and humans, as described in the Book of Enoch? The idea of hybrid beings part divine, part mortal appears in many cultures and suggests that humanity's origins are far more complex than we've been led to believe. The question of whether giants were real is not just confined to mythology. There are numerous reports of giant skeletons being discovered in remote areas around the world. These discoveries, though often dismissed as hoaxes or misinterpretations, have sparked interest and speculation about the existence of giants. In some cases, the skeletons are said to measure well over 9 feet in height, far beyond the average height of humans. While many of these reports remain unverified, they continue to fuel the belief that giants may have once walked the earth. In addition to the physical evidence of giants, there are also references to giant structures that may have been built by these beings. The Giant's Causeway in Ireland, for example, is a natural formation of interlocking basalt columns that some believe could have been the work of giants. According to Irish mythology, the Giant's Causeway was built by the giant Finn McCool to cross the sea to Scotland and fight another giant. While this is a mythological story, the sheer scale of the Giant's Causeway raises interesting questions about the role of giants in ancient history. The possibility that giants were real beings, born from divine human unions, is further supported by the ancient accounts of divine beings descending from the heavens to interact with humanity. Whether we're talking about the Anunnaki in Sumerian mythology, the Watchers in the Book of Enoch, or the gods of Greek mythology, these divine beings were said to have interacted with humans in ways that were both intimate and transformative. The creation of hybrid beings, such as the Nephilim, was a direct result of these interactions. But what if these stories were more than just allegories or myths? What if they were based on actual events? The idea that ancient gods or extraterrestrial beings descended to Earth and created hybrid races challenges the conventional understanding of human origins. Could these beings have been responsible for shaping early human civilization? Could they have given humanity knowledge, technology, and abilities far beyond what was expected of early humans? To answer these questions, we must look at the broader context of ancient civilizations. In the case of the Sumerians, the Anunnaki were said to have brought knowledge of agriculture, metallurgy, and writing to humanity. The Anunnaki played a pivotal role in the development of Sumerian civilization, and their influence extended far beyond Mesopotamia. The Sumerians were among the first to develop a written language, and they made significant advances in astronomy, mathematics, and engineering. The idea that the Anunnaki or other divine beings helped shape these early civilizations raises intriguing possibilities about the origins of human knowledge and culture. This connection between divine beings and the development of civilization is not limited to Sumer. The ancient Egyptians, for example, believed that the gods descended from the heavens to teach humanity the arts and sciences. The Egyptian god Thoth, who was associated with wisdom and writing, was said to have brought the knowledge of writing to humanity. Similarly, the Greeks believed that their gods taught humanity the arts of civilization, from music and poetry to agriculture and architecture. In each of these cultures, there's a common theme. The gods or divine beings played a key role in shaping human civilization. These divine beings didn't just watch from afar, they interacted with humanity, offering knowledge, skills, and sometimes even genetic material to create a new race of beings. The Nephilim, born from the union of divine beings and human women, represent the culmination of this divine intervention. The idea of divine-human hybridization is not just confined to ancient myths. It also appears in the stories of other cultures. In Native American traditions, for example, there are stories of beings called the Star People, who are said to have descended from the stars and mingled with humans. These beings are often described as teaching humanity advanced knowledge and wisdom, much like the gods of other ancient cultures. In modern times, Some researchers and theorists have suggested that these stories of divine beings interacting with humans may have a basis in extraterrestrial contact. The idea that the gods of ancient mythology were actually extraterrestrial beings who came to Earth to guide humanity has been proposed by researchers like Erich von Däniken, who popularized the idea of ancient astronauts. According to von Däniken and others, the gods of ancient cultures may have been visitors from other planets, and their advanced knowledge and technology were misunderstood as divine gifts. While this theory remains controversial, it offers a compelling explanation for the widespread belief in gods who descended from the heavens. If these divine beings were extraterrestrial, then their interaction with humanity could explain many of the technological and cultural advances that occurred in ancient civilizations. It also provides a possible explanation for the creation of hybrid beings like the Nephilim. The idea of extraterrestrial influence on human civilization raises further questions. If the Anunnaki, Watchers, and other divine beings were extraterrestrial visitors, what was their purpose on Earth? Did they come to guide humanity, or was there a more sinister motive behind their actions? And what happened to these beings after they left? Did they leave the Earth entirely, or did they remain hidden, continuing to watch over humanity from afar? In the next part, we will explore the possibility that these divine beings, whether gods, angels, or extraterrestrials, are still among us today. We will examine the evidence for their continued presence on Earth and what their return might mean for the future of humanity. Stay tuned as we continue to uncover the hidden truths of our ancient past and the beings that shaped it. As we dive deeper into the mysteries surrounding the Nephilim, the Anunnaki, and the divine beings who may have shaped early human civilization, the question of whether these beings are still present today becomes increasingly intriguing. Are these entities merely part of ancient myth, or could they have continued to influence humanity throughout history? Are there signs that their presence is still felt in the world today? This part of our journey will explore these questions, examining the possibility that the gods, angels, and extraterrestrials described in ancient texts may still be among us. Many ancient cultures have maintained a belief in the return of divine beings. The idea that gods or celestial beings will return to Earth is a common motif across different traditions. In Christianity, for instance, the return of Christ is a central tenet of the faith, with many believing that Jesus will return at the end of time to judge humanity and restore the world. Similarly, in many Native American traditions, there are prophecies about the return of celestial beings who will bring wisdom and guidance to the people. But could these prophecies and stories be pointing to something more than just spiritual or religious concepts? What if these divine beings are not just mythological figures, but actual beings that have been interacting with humanity throughout history? There are those who suggest that the Anunnaki, Watchers, and other similar beings are not just distant memories from ancient times, but active participants in shaping the course of human history, even in the present day. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence for the ongoing presence of these beings comes from reports of unexplained phenomena across the world. People continue to report encounters with beings that don't seem to belong to our world. These experiences, often referred to as close encounters or alien sightings, have been reported for centuries. From UFO sightings to encounters with strange, otherworldly beings, there's a growing body of evidence that suggests we are not alone in the universe. Some researchers, including those in the field of ufology, propose that these beings could be the same entities described in ancient texts. The Anunnaki, for example, are said to have come from the heavens, and many modern UFO sightings describe beings that appear to come from the sky. The connection between ancient stories of divine beings descending to Earth and modern reports of alien encounters is intriguing. Could it be that the Anunnaki and other ancient gods were, in fact, extraterrestrial visitors who once interacted with humanity and may still be watching us today? One of the most significant and mysterious aspects of these encounters is the widespread consistency in the descriptions of these beings. Throughout history, people from different cultures and backgrounds have reported similar experiences with otherworldly entities. These beings are often described as tall, humanoid figures with extraordinary abilities, characteristics that echo the descriptions of giants. and gods found in ancient myths. The idea that these beings might be the same ones that once descended from the heavens to teach humanity and interact with early civilizations is a compelling theory. There are also many stories from ancient texts that suggest these divine beings were not just observers, but active participants in the shaping of human society. The Anunnaki are said to have played a direct role in the development of agriculture, writing, and other aspects of civilization. The Watchers in the Book of Enoch are described as beings who imparted knowledge to humanity, knowledge that was both beneficial and dangerous. Could these beings still be influencing us today, perhaps in more subtle ways? There are those who believe that the influence of the Anunnaki, the Watchers, and other divine beings is not only felt in the distant past, but is still present in the world today. Some point to the advanced technologies and knowledge that have emerged in recent centuries, suggesting that these breakthroughs may be the result of hidden knowledge passed down through the ages. The rapid progress in fields like space exploration, artificial intelligence, and genetics raises questions about the origins of such knowledge. Could it be that this advanced knowledge is not entirely of human origin? Could these divine beings, whether gods or extraterrestrials, still be influencing our technological development? In addition to the possibility of ongoing extraterrestrial influence, there are also reports of individuals experiencing direct contact with these beings. Some people claim to have had encounters with beings that they describe as angels, aliens, or otherworldly entities. These experiences often involve a sense of heightened awareness or understanding, as though the individuals have been given access to knowledge that is not of this world. While these experiences are often dismissed as hallucinations or psychological phenomena, they suggest that the presence of these beings may not be as far removed from modern life as we think. But what about the ancient prophecies that foretold the return of these divine beings? Could these prophecies be more than just symbolic or spiritual in nature? Could they be pointing to a literal return of the Anunnaki, Watchers, or other celestial beings? Some believe that we are on the brink of a great awakening, a moment when these ancient beings will once again descend to Earth, bringing with them the knowledge and wisdom that will transform humanity. The idea of a divine return is not limited to Christianity or Native American traditions. In many other cultures, there are prophecies about the return of gods or celestial beings. The ancient Mayans, for example, believed in the return of a god known as Quetzalcoatl, who was said to have descended from the heavens. The Hopi tribe of North America also has prophecies about the return of a group of beings, known as the Ant People, who are believed to have once lived in the sky. These stories, like the ones in Christianity, point to a time when divine beings will return to Earth. But their return may not just be a spiritual event, it could be a literal one. Could these ancient prophecies be a reflection of an ancient truth, one that has been hidden from us for thousands of years? Could it be that the Anunnaki and other divine beings have been watching humanity, waiting for the right moment to return? And if they do return, what will that mean for the future of humanity? In the next part, we will explore the potential implications of the return of these divine beings. What would it mean for humanity if the Anunnaki, Watchers, or other extraterrestrial beings were to return to Earth? How would we respond to their arrival, and what knowledge might they bring with them? Stay tuned as we continue our journey into the hidden truths of our ancient past and the beings that may still be shaping our future. As we consider the potential return of the Anunnaki, Watchers, or other divine beings, we must reflect on the implications such an event would have for humanity. The concept of their return is a theme that resonates across multiple cultures and prophecies, suggesting that these beings are not just figures from our distant past, but active participants in the ongoing story of humanity. If the Anunnaki or other celestial beings were to return, what would that mean for our future? How would we react to their presence, and what knowledge or wisdom might they bring with them? First and foremost, the return of these beings would undoubtedly shatter our understanding of history, religion, and the very nature of humanity. For centuries, we have been taught that we are the product of evolution, shaped by natural forces over millions of years. But what if the reality is more complex than that? What if our civilization was not solely the result of human ingenuity, but also influenced by beings from beyond our world beings who imparted advanced knowledge and technologies to help guide us. If the Anunnaki or the Watchers returned, it could force us to reconsider the very foundations of our civilization. Ancient texts such as the Book of Enoch and Sumerian myths suggest that these divine beings played a direct role in the development of agriculture, astronomy, writing, and many other aspects of early human civilization. These texts also hint at a much deeper, more intricate connection between humanity and the cosmos, one that suggests we may not be as isolated as we once believed. The return of these beings could reveal a vast, interconnected history, one that spans the stars and brings us into contact with advanced civilizations far beyond our planet. The return of these beings could also challenge our religious beliefs. Many of the world's religions include stories of gods or angels descending from the heavens, interacting with humanity, and imparting divine wisdom. For example, the Anunnaki in Sumerian mythology are often described as gods who brought knowledge to humanity. The Watchers in the Book of Enoch similarly share knowledge with humans, but their interference in human affairs ultimately leads to their downfall. If beings like the Anunnaki were to return today, it could challenge traditional religious narratives and force us to reconsider the nature of divinity and our place in the universe. From a spiritual perspective, the return of these beings could be seen as a form of awakening, a moment when humanity is called to evolve and ascend to a higher state of consciousness. Many ancient traditions speak of a time when the divine will return to Earth, bringing with it enlightenment and wisdom that will help humanity transcend its limitations. The return of the Anunnaki or Watchers might be viewed as the fulfillment of these prophecies, offering us an opportunity to elevate ourselves to a new level of understanding and existence. But this process could also be fraught with challenges. The advanced knowledge these beings possess may be too overwhelming or dangerous for us to handle. In the Book of Enoch, the Watcher's gift of knowledge, though valuable, was ultimately destructive, as it led to the creation of the Nephilim, a race of giants who caused chaos on Earth. The question of how humanity would respond to the return of such beings is another crucial consideration. Would we welcome them with open arms, eager to learn from their advanced knowledge and wisdom? Or would we react with fear, suspicion, and resistance, unable to comprehend the true nature of their presence? In many ways, our response to such an event would be shaped by our current state of consciousness. Are we ready to accept the truth of our origins and the vastness of the universe? Or are we still too entrenched in the belief that we are the sole rulers of our destiny? One of the most significant challenges humanity would face in the event of a return of these beings is the potential for conflict. History has shown that whenever new, advanced knowledge is introduced to a society, it often leads to fear, division, and struggle. In ancient times, when the Anunnaki or Watchers may have first interacted with humanity, their arrival could have disrupted the existing power structures and led to competition for control over the newfound knowledge. In the modern world, the return of such beings could create similar tensions, with governments, corporations, and religious organizations all vying for influence over the knowledge these beings would bring. Moreover, the technological advancements associated with these beings would likely be far beyond anything we can currently comprehend. If the Anunnaki are truly extraterrestrial visitors, as some theorists suggest, they could possess technologies that are far more advanced than anything humanity has developed. These technologies could include everything from advanced space travel and energy manipulation to sophisticated methods of healing and genetic engineering. The implications of such technologies would be profound, as they could radically alter our way of life and our understanding of the universe. In this context, the return of the Anunnaki or Watchers could bring about both extraordinary opportunities and serious dangers. On one hand, the knowledge they offer could help solve many of the world's pressing problems, from environmental destruction to disease and poverty. On the other hand, the introduction of such powerful technologies could lead to unforeseen consequences, potentially creating new forms of control, exploitation, and conflict. If humanity is not prepared to handle such knowledge responsibly, it could lead to even greater chaos and destruction than we have seen before. The existence of these divine beings and their potential return raises another important question. What role does humanity play in this larger cosmic drama? Are we merely pawns in a grand game, manipulated by beings far more powerful than we can imagine? Or are we active participants in this unfolding story, capable of choosing our own path? In the Book of Enoch, Enoch himself is portrayed as a mediator between the gods and humanity, serving as a bridge between the divine and mortal realms. His role suggests that humanity may have the ability to interact with divine beings and influence the course of history. But to do so, we must first understand our place in the larger cosmic order. As we continue to explore the possibility of the Anunnaki, or other celestial beings returning to Earth, we must confront the uncomfortable reality that we may not be as in control of our destiny as we once believed. The return of these beings could serve as a reminder that humanity is part of a much larger, interconnected universe, a universe filled with forces and beings far beyond our comprehension. It could be a wake-up call, urging us to reconsider our place in the cosmos and to recognize the potential for both great advancement and great danger that comes with the knowledge and power we seek. In the next part, we will look at the potential for these divine beings to bring about a new era of human development. What if their return marks the beginning of a new chapter in human history? Could we be entering a time of spiritual and technological awakening? Or will the return of these beings force us to confront darker truths about our past and our future? Stay tuned as we continue to explore these profound questions and uncover the mysteries of our ancient origins. As we continue to ponder the possibility of the Anunnaki or other divine beings returning to Earth, we must also consider the potential for such an event to trigger a new era of human development. Could the return of these celestial beings mark the beginning of a profound transformation in human history, a shift in our spiritual and technological understanding, or will it force us to confront deeper, darker truths about our origins, our purpose, and our place in the universe? The potential for these divine beings to guide humanity into a new era is both awe-inspiring and daunting. If, as some believe, the Anunnaki are extraterrestrial visitors with advanced technology and knowledge, their return could open the doors to new possibilities for humanity. These beings, if they are indeed the ones responsible for the birth of early civilizations, could possess knowledge that has been passed down through millennia, knowledge about the cosmos, the nature of reality, and perhaps even the origins of life itself. Such knowledge could radically alter our understanding of everything, from physics and medicine to space exploration and our own consciousness. Consider the possibility of advanced technologies that could solve some of humanity's greatest challenges. The Anunnaki may possess the means to eradicate diseases that have plagued humanity for centuries, from cancer to genetic disorders. They could offer solutions to environmental crises, from climate change to resource depletion. By providing sustainable technologies or knowledge about how to restore ecological balance, the potential for such advancements could offer humanity a chance to transcend its limitations and achieve a level of development that has only been imagined in science fiction. But with these advancements come significant risks. The Anunnaki's advanced knowledge and technologies, though potentially transformative, could also lead to unforeseen consequences. In the past, when new knowledge was introduced to a society, it often led to imbalances of power, exploitation, and conflict. The rise of advanced technologies can sometimes outpace our ability to understand or manage them responsibly. In this case, if the Anunnaki were to share their knowledge, we must ask ourselves, would humanity be ready to handle it? Would we use this newfound power for good, or would we fall into the same patterns of greed, corruption, and violence that have plagued us throughout history? Moreover, the return of these beings could challenge the very foundation of human identity and our understanding of the world. For millennia, humanity has struggled to answer fundamental questions about its origins. Where did we come from? What is the nature of the universe? Are we alone in the cosmos? The presence of the Anunnaki or other extraterrestrial beings could shatter the conventional answers to these questions, forcing us to confront the possibility that our history is far more complex and mysterious than we've been led to believe. It could force humanity to reconsider its place in the universe as mere inhabitants of a small, insignificant planet or as part of a much larger, interconnected cosmic order. This potential shift in perspective could be both liberating and unsettling. On the one hand, the knowledge and guidance offered by these beings could empower humanity, offering us the tools to overcome our greatest challenges and unlock our full potential. On the other hand, it could force us to confront uncomfortable truths about our origins and our role in the larger cosmic drama. What if we are not the pinnacle of evolution, as we often like to think, but merely a stepping stone in the development of a much greater cosmic intelligence? What if humanity's journey is just one chapter in an ongoing story, one that spans the stars and connects us with other advanced civilizations? In many ways, the return of these divine beings could serve as a mirror, reflecting back to humanity the truths we have long buried or forgotten. Their presence could provoke a spiritual awakening, one that challenges us to examine our values, our relationships with each other, and our relationship with the earth. It could push humanity to reevaluate its priorities, to shift from a mindset of individualism and competition to one of unity and cooperation. As the Anunnaki, or Watchers, may have once guided humanity toward knowledge and wisdom, their return could serve as a catalyst for a collective awakening, a realization that we are all interconnected, not just with each other, but with the entire cosmos. However, there is also the possibility that the return of these beings could have a darker side. The Nephilim, the hybrid offspring of the Watchers and human women, were described in the Book of Enoch as giants who brought destruction and chaos to earth. Their creation, according to the text, was a violation of divine law, and their existence ultimately led to the great flood that wiped them out. If the Anunnaki or other divine beings were to return, could their presence lead to similar consequences? Could the knowledge they bring have unintended side effects, creating hybrids or beings with powers far beyond human control? The concept of hybridization is central to many ancient texts, including the Book of Enoch. The Nephilim were the result of a divine-human union, and their birth was seen as a dangerous crossing of boundaries. The creation of hybrid beings may have been a significant factor in the Great Flood, which served as both a punishment and a cleansing. In this context, the return of the Anunnaki could raise questions about the potential dangers of meddling with human genetics, technology, and the natural order. Would the introduction of their advanced knowledge lead to the creation of new hybrid beings that could pose a threat to humanity's survival? While these possibilities may sound far-fetched, they reflect a deeper truth about the human condition. The potential for both great advancement and great destruction lies within us. The story of the Nephilim serves as a warning about the consequences of crossing boundaries, whether those boundaries are physical, moral, or spiritual. As we reach for the stars and seek to unlock the secrets of the universe, we must be mindful of the risks involved. The return of the Anunnaki could serve as a reminder that knowledge is not inherently good or bad. It is how we choose to use it that defines its impact on our world. As we explore these profound questions, we must also ask ourselves, what kind of future do we want to create? Will the return of the Anunnaki or other divine beings be a turning point in human history, one that leads to enlightenment, peace, and unity? Or will it spark a new cycle of conflict, fear, and destruction? The answers to these questions lie not in the beings themselves, but in our own choices as a species. In the next part, we will look how humanity's relationship with these divine beings, whether gods, angels, or extraterrestrials, can shape the future. What lessons can we learn from the past? And how can we apply them to create a better future for ourselves and the generations to come? Stay with us as we continue to unravel the mysteries of our ancient origins and the possibilities of what lies ahead for humanity. As we continue to explore the potential return of the Anunnaki or other divine beings, we must examine how humanity's relationship with these entities could shape the future. What lessons can we draw from ancient myths and prophecies? And how can we apply these lessons to create a more enlightened and sustainable future for ourselves and future generations? The return of the Anunnaki, or any other extraterrestrial or divine beings, could serve as a turning point in human history, a moment that forces us to reflect on our past, challenge our current beliefs, and ultimately decide the direction in which we want to go. First, we must consider how humanity has historically interacted with divine or extraterrestrial beings. Throughout ancient history, there are countless examples of gods, angels, and celestial beings interacting with humans, often imparting knowledge, wisdom, and technology. The Anunnaki and the Watchers in the Book of Enoch are prime examples of beings that were believed to have provided advanced knowledge to humanity. However, these interactions were not without consequences. In many cases, the divine presence on earth led to corruption, chaos, and destruction. The Nephilim, the giant offspring of the Watchers, wreaked havoc on earth, and their actions ultimately led to the Great Flood. The question we must ask is, can we avoid the mistakes of the past? If the Anunnaki or other divine beings return, will we be able to handle the advanced knowledge and technologies they might bring? Or will we repeat the cycle of destruction and chaos that has plagued humanity for centuries? Ancient stories suggest that the divine beings who interacted with humanity did so with a sense of responsibility and a desire to guide us. But their guidance often came at a high price. Can we learn from these past lessons and approach the return of such beings with humility and wisdom? The return of these divine beings could present a unique opportunity for humanity. It could offer us the chance to break free from the limitations of our current understanding and develop new ways of thinking. If these beings possess knowledge of the cosmos, energy, and advanced technologies, they could help us solve some of the most pressing problems facing our planet. Climate change, resource depletion, and disease are all global challenges that could be alleviated with the right knowledge and technology. The Anunnaki, or other extraterrestrial beings, could offer solutions to these problems, solutions that have been hidden from us for millennia. However, the return of such beings also carries significant risks. As we have seen in the past, the introduction of advanced knowledge can disrupt societal structures and create new forms of inequality and power imbalance. If the Anunnaki return with advanced technology, there's a possibility that only certain groups or nations would have access to that knowledge, creating a new form of elitism. The control of this knowledge could become a powerful tool for manipulation, much like how the control of knowledge has been used throughout human history to maintain power. It is crucial that we approach this knowledge with caution and ensure that it is shared equitably, not used for the benefit of a few at the expense of the many. Furthermore, the return of these beings may force us to confront deeper philosophical and existential questions about our place in the universe. For centuries, humanity has operated under the assumption that we are the dominant species on Earth, the pinnacle of evolution. But if these divine beings are truly extraterrestrial visitors with advanced knowledge, it may challenge our sense of superiority. It could force us to reckon with the fact that we are not the center of the universe, but part of a much larger, interconnected cosmic order. This realization could be both humbling and liberating, as it opens up new possibilities for understanding our purpose and place in the grand scheme of things. As we consider these possibilities, it's important to reflect on how humanity can prepare itself for the return of the Anunnaki or other divine beings. How can we ensure that we are ready to handle the advanced knowledge and technologies they might offer? The answer lies in our collective consciousness. In the Book of Enoch, the Watchers descended to earth and shared knowledge with humanity. But their gift was both a blessing and a curse. Humanity's response to that knowledge ultimately led to chaos and destruction. If we are to avoid repeating the same mistakes, we must approach the return of these beings with a sense of responsibility, wisdom, and humility. Education and spiritual growth will be key to humanity's ability to handle the return of such beings. We must cultivate an understanding of our interconnectedness with the cosmos and recognize that we are part of a much larger reality than we often acknowledge. This shift in consciousness will require a collective effort, as it involves not just intellectual understanding, but also emotional and spiritual growth. We must learn to live in harmony with each other and with the earth, recognizing that the knowledge we gain from these beings must be used for the benefit of all, not just for the power and control of a few. Furthermore, humanity's relationship with these divine beings could be an opportunity to explore new forms of governance and social structures. In ancient times, the arrival of divine beings often led to the establishment of new systems of power. The Anunnaki, in Sumerian mythology, for example, played a role in the creation of early city-states and the development of written law. If the Anunnaki were to return, it could offer an opportunity to reevaluate our current political and economic systems, moving away from systems that are based on inequality and exploitation, and towards systems that are more just, equitable, and sustainable. The return of these divine beings could also serve as a catalyst for spiritual awakening. Many ancient cultures believed that the return of the gods would bring about a period of enlightenment where humanity would transcend its material limitations and achieve a higher state of consciousness. If the Anunnaki or other celestial beings return, it could be a reminder of our divine potential and a call for us to reconnect with the spiritual aspects of our being. In this new age, humanity could rise above the divisions that have plagued us for centuries, whether based on race, nationality, or religion, and embrace a more unified, harmonious existence. In the next part, we will continue to explore the potential implications of the Anunnaki's return and how it could reshape the future of humanity. We will examine the possible spiritual and technological advancements that could arise from this event and how we can prepare ourselves to be better stewards of the knowledge and wisdom that might come our way. Stay tuned as we continue to explore the profound mysteries that shape our past, present, and future. As we approach the final stages of our exploration into the return of the Anunnaki or other divine beings, we must focus on how this momentous event could reshape humanity's future spiritually, technologically, and socially. The potential for such a shift in human history cannot be overstated. If the Anunnaki or other celestial entities were to return, we would not only be faced with the opportunity to receive extraordinary knowledge, but also the responsibility to use it wisely. Let's delve deeper into the potential spiritual and technological advancements that could arise from this event and how we can prepare ourselves for the challenges and possibilities that lie ahead. First, the return of these beings could represent a profound spiritual awakening for humanity. Throughout history, many cultures have spoken of a time when divine beings would return to guide us toward enlightenment. The Anunnaki, the Watchers, and other celestial beings are often associated with imparting sacred knowledge, wisdom, and teachings that transcend the mundane aspects of human life. Their return could provide an opportunity for humanity to reconnect with higher dimensions of consciousness and spirituality. The Anunnaki and Watchers were described in ancient texts as beings who possessed vast knowledge about the universe and its workings, knowledge that humans were not ready to comprehend fully at the time. This knowledge, whether spiritual or scientific, could help humanity break free from the confines of materialism and develop a deeper understanding of the universe and our place within it. Imagine a world where human beings are no longer bound by ignorance or separation, but instead work together toward the common goal of spiritual and intellectual growth. One of the key aspects of spiritual advancement is understanding our interconnectedness with all life forms and the cosmos. The teachings brought by the Anunnaki could help humanity realize that we are not isolated beings on a small planet, but part of a vast, interconnected cosmic web. This shift in consciousness would have profound implications for our relationships with each other and with the planet. As we come to understand that everything in the universe is interdependent, we would naturally shift toward a more compassionate and harmonious way of living. The return of the Anunnaki could also provide us with the tools for transcending the divisions that have plagued humanity for centuries, whether those divisions are based on race, religion, or nationality. The advanced knowledge and wisdom imparted by these beings could offer us the means to overcome the destructive forces of hatred, fear, and conflict that have shaped much of human history. It could guide humanity toward a unified global consciousness where we no longer see ourselves as separate, but as interconnected beings sharing a common destiny. Technological advancements, in addition to spiritual advancements, the return of the Anunnaki or other divine beings could bring about extraordinary technological progress. If these beings possess knowledge of the cosmos and advanced technologies, their return could offer humanity the tools to solve many of the most pressing issues we face today. One of the most important technological gifts they could provide is the ability to harness clean, limitless energy, we are currently facing an energy crisis, with fossil fuels causing environmental damage and nuclear energy carrying its own risks. However, extraterrestrial or divine beings with advanced technology might be able to offer solutions for sustainable energy sources such as harnessing the power of the stars or manipulating energy at a quantum level that could revolutionize our entire energy infrastructure. This kind of breakthrough in energy technology could have far-reaching effects on our society. Clean, abundant energy would not only reduce our environmental impact, but could also transform economies, industries, and everyday life. Imagine a world where energy is free and abundant, eliminating the need for fossil fuels and reducing our reliance on harmful environmental practices. This could pave the way for new forms of transportation, resource distribution, and infrastructure that are far more efficient and sustainable than what we have today. Furthermore, the Anunnaki may possess knowledge in fields such as medicine and genetics that could eradicate many of the diseases that have plagued humanity for centuries. Advances in genetic engineering, regenerative medicine, and disease prevention could drastically improve the quality of life for people around the world. The knowledge to cure genetic disorders, reverse aging, and eliminate diseases like cancer and heart disease could become accessible to us, potentially leading to a new era of health and longevity. There could also be advancements in space exploration and technology. The Anunnaki, if they are extraterrestrial beings, would likely have mastered space travel. Their return could introduce humanity to new ways of exploring and interacting with the cosmos. Space travel, which is currently limited by our technology and resources, could be revolutionized, leading to new possibilities for interstellar exploration and the colonization of other planets. As we learn to harness these advanced technologies, humanity could take its place as a member of the larger galactic community, engaging with other civilizations and cultures beyond Earth. Social and economic advancements. With these technological and spiritual advancements, the return of the Anunnaki could also result in social and economic changes that radically shift the way we live. Currently, our world is dominated by systems that prioritize profit and individual gain over collective well-being. But the introduction of advanced technologies and spiritual teachings could help us move away from these divisive, profit-driven systems. Instead, we could build societies based on cooperation, equality, and sustainability. The Anunnaki, in many myths, were said to have helped establish early forms of civilization, including the creation of the first cities and the development of written laws. If they were to return, they could offer new ways of organizing societies based on principles of fairness, harmony, and balance. We could transition away from the systems of inequality that define much of our modern world and build new structures that prioritize the well-being of all people, rather than just a select few. In the economic realm, the advanced technologies brought by the Anunnaki could allow us to move beyond the limitations of our current economic models. We may no longer need to rely on scarcity-based systems where resources are finite and competition drives inequality. With the knowledge of abundant energy, efficient resource management, and sustainable practices, we could create a world where poverty, hunger, and environmental degradation are things of the past. As we come to realize that all humans are interconnected, both spiritually and materially, we could form global societies that focus on mutual support and collective progress. This could lead to the dissolution of borders and the emergence of a unified world. Instead of living in isolated nations and regions, humanity could come together as one species, working toward the common goal of ensuring the prosperity of the earth and all its inhabitants. The future of humanity, the return of the Anunnaki and other divine beings, would undoubtedly be a defining moment in human history. It would challenge everything we think we know about ourselves, our past, and our place in the universe. But it also offers a unique opportunity for humanity to break free from its current limitations and reach for something greater. If we approach the return of these beings with wisdom, humility, and unity, we could usher in a new era of enlightenment, one where humanity transcends the barriers of ignorance, fear, and division. The spiritual, technological, and social advancements that could come with their guidance could lead to a future where humanity thrives in harmony with each other and the earth. But we must remember that the ultimate responsibility lies with us. The knowledge and wisdom that may be offered by the Anunnaki or other divine beings will only be as beneficial as our ability to handle it. We must be prepared to use this knowledge responsibly for the benefit of all, and to build a future that honors the interconnectedness of all life. The return of the Anunnaki could be the catalyst for humanity's greatest evolution. It is up to us to ensure that we are ready for this transformation and that we rise to meet the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. By embracing the lessons of the past, the wisdom of the Anunnaki, and the potential of our collective human spirit, we can create a future that is not only technologically advanced, but also spiritually enlightened and deeply connected to the cosmos. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the mysteries of humanity's past and future. As we continue to uncover the hidden truths about our origins, may we also discover the wisdom that will guide us toward a brighter tomorrow.